Here we are for another round of the 70s versus the 90s, and it's a special Pride Month edition when I put the queens of drag against each other with Jim Sharman's The Rocky Horror Picture Show against Stephen Elliott's The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. And this one was a real fun one to get to because, I mean, granted, both of these movies are very fun. And this particular matchup was partially inspired by that Drew Carey episode where they have the whole dance off in front of the fucking midnight movie against the people that are there to see Drew Carey's friends that are there to see the Rocky Horror Picture Show and Mimi's crew that's there to see the adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. And as Craig Ferguson says, your drag is old, Carey, our drag is new. We'll find out which one wins at the end of this round. So first up, we have Jim Sharman's The Rocky Horror Picture Show, which the coolest thing about the Rocky Horror Picture Show is that it's the longest running theatrical, it has the longest running theatrical run of any motion picture ever made. You know, ever since the movie was made, shit's been running in fucking midnight shows all over the world. You know, this movie is a renowned cult classic. You know, all the people that love cult movies and quirky shit like this, they all jerk off to the altar of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And I will give it one thing. It does have some pretty great songs and it has some, really great moments. But on the whole, is it really that good? You got Tim Curry in probably his most iconic role as Dr. Frankenfurter, who's just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. That's one of the main songs in the film. But I mean, the greatest of all the songs in this movie is Time Warp. I mean, honestly, without Time Warp, this movie ain't shit, And it's got kind of in a weird, it's like a fucking LGBT version of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And also it's very campy throwback to all the other campy horror sci-fi films that came before, as that opening song, science fiction double feature, quips all throughout the song with them little lips going and shit. But you got Barry Bostwick and Susan Sarandon, this very straight-laced, repressed couple that, get run off the road and end up at this strange mansion that's Dr. Frankenfurter's, and you got his handyman, Riff Raff, played by Richard O'Brien, and, one of the few, actual women in this movie, Magenta, who's, fucking hot as shit with that whole French maid and the white makeup and shit. You also got Little Nell and Meatloaf's in this shit as well. And honestly, once they kill Meatloaf, that's when the movie just goes downhill. Because it's got a great buildup. You got Charles Gray as that criminologist that's going through all this shit, and especially the intercut stuff with him during Time Warp. That's fucking brilliant. I can't stress enough how brilliant that Time Warp sequence is. I'm not one for musicals. Musicals are fucking lame as shit. And, they're only for people that love a good spectacle. And, mind you, I don't mind a good spectacle, but, just don't rub my fucking face in it, And, that whole, it goes from Time Warp and then the Sweet Transvestite. And then, even, the Hot Patootie, the one that Meatloaf does, he come rolling in on that motorcycle and shit. And, but like I said, once they kill Meatloaf, it just starts going downhill, even the creation, Rocky and all that stuff. They got the Creature of the Night one is okay, but then, like I said, it just keeps getting more absurd and just keeps dragging on and on, even for a movie that's only an hour and 40 minutes, because it's you don't peak that high and then go that fucking low, And like I said, I think most of the reason why a lot of motherfuckers love this film is just for the pure experience of it. And I've never been to one of those live screenings of fucking Rocky Horror where everybody's shouting shit at the fucking screen and shooting water pistols and whatever the hell else they do, low-key Nazi type shit that they do at those fucking shows. But just watching it as a regular movie, the shit gets fucking old. Because when I first saw the film, I was like, oh, this shit's wild, it's cool, it's fun, whatever. The more I watch it, the more it fucking irks me. And it's once I see Time Warp, I'm like, do I really need to keep watching this fucking movie? And then we move on to Stephen Elliott's The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, which is one of the greatest road movies of all time. And it's crazy, too, when you see Australian films. They're just so much better than most other movies. One can say that America is the greatest country for making movies and shit, but Australians come a close fucking second, because one, their action movies are just absolutely batshit crazy. And the crazy thing is they can make fruity shit like this and still make it like badass and entertaining, you know, because think about this, these Australian drag queens are still a lot more tougher than like your average male in America. That's how fucking crazy that shit is. And the drag queens in question in this film, you got Hugo Weaving, Terrence Stamp, and Guy Pearce, who all three of them are just absolutely brilliant in the film. And what kicks off the whole road trip is Hugo Weaving has a wife and a kid that nobody knows about. He's kept it very secret and everything, but he gets a call from his wife or estranged wife, wherever the fuck you want to frame it, and she needs help. You know, she wants him to like meet his son and all, and be and do a bunch of drag shows at the fucking hotel that she runs. You know, because like he's one of like the top drag performers in Sydney, Australia. And so he brings along Bernadette, which is played by Terrence Stamp, who's absolutely brilliant in the film, who's actually a transsexual, transgender, whatever the fuck you want to call me. He's actually got tits and actually got his dick chopped off and stuff like that. And you know, he's mourning the loss of his partner. And of course, like his Hugo Weaving's partner in crime is the very sassy Guy Pearce, who yet again absolutely brilliant in the film. And he comes along, and you know, of course, like all three of them are all completely different. You got Hugo Weaving's kind of the neutral one, and then you got like Terrence Stamp and Guy Pearce, who are on the exact opposites of the spectrum, and then they fucking just keep fucking button heads the whole fucking movie. But it's a lot of great shots of Australia. Like the scenery is just beautiful, and what they do with that fucking bus, you know, when they're standing on the bus with the all extravagant outfits. The outfits are wild and crazy. You know, it's got a killer soundtrack, you know, and you know, a lot of heart to this movie too. A lot of quirky shit too. There also is that they come across that one Asian lady that's shooting ping pong balls out of her twat. That's pretty fucking wild. And of course, like all through, you know, they're going through like the fucking like dent like small towns in fucking Australia, you know, that they probably never even seen a fucking drag show before. And of course they meet a lot of animosity towards that. Like when they're stranded out in the desert and they Terrence Stamp finally gets somebody to help them, but then they see all these fucking wild and crazy looking drag queens. They just fucking speed the fuck on, leave them out there. But they do find one person that's very sympathetic, a mechanic named Bob, and I believe played by Bill Hunter is his name. And like he's such a wonderful character in the film, because like he had seen these lay girl shows when he was a young lad in Sydney, and you know he was enamored with him. He thought it was a great time, and he ends up kind of falling in love with Terrence Stamp's character and stuff, you know. And like there's so much respect paid towards these drag queens and stuff, and the movie actually kind of portrays them more as human beings as opposed to just the insane spectacle that is the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Now, one can look at it like the changing of times, you know, because in the 70s the shit wasn't as accepted. Now granted, in the 90s it wasn't that much more accepted either. You know, we see a lot of the fucking like hatred and animosity, especially in one of the first towns they stop in. They get somebody fucking spray paints AIDS fuckers go home. You know, none of these motherfuckers got AIDS, but it was still that common misconception in the mid 90s that most homosexuals were fucking AIDS infested and shit like that. And you know, and even all through the film, once they finally get to their destination, and Hugo Weaving's got to try to like, you know, connect with his son, and he's all concerned that his son's gonna like disown him if he knows who he really is. And then it turns out the son doesn't really give a fuck. You know, he kind of has an idea who his father is and stuff, because his mother probably told him. His mother seemed like the kind of woman that she doesn't give a fuck. Like she was clearly cool with who the fuck the dude she married was, because there was no misconception. I mean, fuck, he wore the dress and she wore the suit at the wedding. So I mean, there's clearly, you know, no secrets and shit. So why would the kid give a fuck, you know? And he kind of takes a shine to all the, you know, all of his friends and stuff, and he ends up taking him to Sydney at the end of the film to like, you know, really just be an actual father and shit, you know, because it's like, and it is one of those beautiful movies. Like there's really no complaints with this movie because it has all the shit that you would imagine in a film like this, and even with a lot more heart, you know. So I mean, this round has to go to The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. One, because it's just a real ass movie. There's not a moment in this film where I'm bored or I'm irked, you know, because like I said, Australians have a way of making movies that are just better than most people. You know, they can make fucking movies about anything and make them like touching and heartfelt and above all entertaining, you know. Like, and with Rocky Horror Picture Show, that movie kind of, like I said, it falls apart in the third act because it's just fucking stumble ass over stumble ass bullshit, and then it's like, they blow everything up, and they're aliens, and then they get rid of Frankenfurter, and of course it's overly dramatic, and you got Rocky carrying him up there like he's fucking King Kong and shit, a lot of movie references and shit, as opposed to something like The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. That's just more of a real ass movie. Also, the Americans tried to remake it with Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, and they could not capture the heart that film had. Like the most references you get from shit is fucking the music, and the music is absolutely brilliant too. And like their performances in the drag shows are really fucking great too. And it's just more of a fun movie, I don't know. I gotta go with Mimi's crew from the Drew Carey show. That the new drag is better than the old drag, I suppose. So, for anybody keeping score, that is 93 to 73. 70s are only up by 20 now. Sometimes the 90s can really fucking surprise you, man. They fucking like there were some films that they had a lot of heart, and especially the gay shit. That was the new queer cinema that kind of kicked off in the late 80s, early 90s, especially with filmmakers like Todd Haynes and um, Greg Araki, and of course all over the globe, they would have had the gay movies were a lot more, or maybe LGBT, whatever the fuck, all the fucking alphabet mafia, they were more accepting and treated shit with a little more respect. So if I've said anything wrong, anything you disagree with, feel free to eviscerate me in the comments. I mean, this is just one asshole's opinion on a very long, self-indulgent journey to see which decade was better for movies, the 70s or the 90s. You get those 1-2 punches from the 90s every once in a while, but 70s are still up by 20. So, I mean, it's going to take a hell of a lot for the 90s to reclaim that lead, but I still got a fuck ton of these matchups to fucking do. And if you got any recommendations, feel free to throw them my way. And of course, like, if you recommend one that I've already done, I mean, this is like episode 166. So, I mean, I'll be more than happy to direct you to a previous episode and shit. So, keep your pride up, because who gives a fuck who you are, what you are. As long as you enjoy it, you're having fun, and nobody's getting hurt, why should anybody have a problem with it?